Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock, which means it's time for a Talk Magic. And today I am with a pillar of the British magic community, somebody who is a creator, an innovator, produced wonderful magic, a great performer, worked not just in magic, but in television as well. Very well respected person, both in and out of the magic circle, and just a genuinely nice guy as well. I am, of course, talking about the one and only Daryl Rose. How you doing, Daryl?
I'm very well. Thanks for a wonderful introduction. It sounded like my parents there.
It's all true. You really are. I remember reviewing some, products that you bought out way back when I was on the Wizard Product Review, David Pan. I mean, you've been creating and innovating magic for a very, very long time. This is. You've been in and around magic for as long back as I can remember, and then some. So
yeah, no, I started when I was sort of a 10, 11-year-old kid. So yeah, it is in the 40 plus years ago.
Well, let's do that. Let's for people that don't know who you are, because I do have a big viewing audience outside of England, in America and Canada. So let's do a bit of a frame of reference, and let's talk about your origin story. You got into magic when you were 10, is that right? 10 or 11?
Yeah, that's absolutely. I went on a school trip to the Soviet Union, and at the time it was very, very depressing. You'd walk down the streets and no one would ever smile. And of course, the Russians at the time, they would only take you to the places they wanted you to see, and it was deep USSR. It really was at the time. And you'd get to the hotel, and there'd be a woman, with a big desk. Every time that the hotel lift opened, and there'd be a woman on every floor, checking you in and checking you out. And I was sharing a room with the son of Timothy West and Penella Scales. For those that American audience, Penella Scales played Sybil 40 and 40 Towers, and Timothy West, the husband, is a very fine actor that used to play Winston Churchill and everything else. And we were sharing a room, and the moment we got in, saw the smoke detector and said, I bet it's a bug, I bet it's a bug. And of course, as a 10, 11-year-old kid, you'd go up, and we unscrewed it, and of course a microphone did genuinely drop out of the smoke detector. It was just really fun, weird times.
Wow.
But he did magic, and at the time Copperfield was at his heyday, and I loved magic, and I'd always try and find out how things were done, but I was a muggle. And we were told when we went to Russia to take chewing gum, dollars, and Levi's jeans. So I took a pair of Levi's jeans and chewing gum, dollars, and whatever else I said, I think it was. And we were told to take them because we could barter with Russians for rubles, and you get the best rate if you just took chewing gum. So that's what we did. And we went to Red Square, and we met some students, and we said, oh, come, do you want to do some trades? They went, yes. And let's come back to the hotel. And my friend Joe, decided to do some magic, and he took a little red sponge ball and he placed it into one of the Russians' hands, and he took his other one and he made his vanish, and he tapped their hands twice with a little magic wand, and when they opened up their hands there was 2 balls, and everyone burst out laughing. I thought, crikey, if it's got that much impact on a Russian, imagine what the Western world. And I asked him a good book to get, and he said, well, you go to the library and get the Big Book of Magic by Patrick Page. And that's really where it started. Literally the moment I got back, I went straight to the library, got the copy of the book, and from that, as we all well know, the world, the doors to the world of magic are not locked, they're just ajar. And in the back of that there's bibliography. So go to this magic shop or go to this book, and it just opened up the world of magic for me.
So what was the plan, Daryl? So you started really kind of getting into magic and learning magic. Was the plan to be a magician, or was it just a hobby that you enjoyed doing? Did you actually go out and perform, or you were just studying it? Where were you at that point?
It's quite interesting because the week after I got back from the Soviet Union, my parents' friend, who was the editing supervisor at ITN, Independent Television News, which is the main ITV news channel, said, would you like to come and see the news go out at the weekend? And I didn't know anything about television. I went, oh, yeah, can we go? And we sat at the back of the gallery, and the PA counted down from 10 all the way down to 0. And literally by the time the clock hit 0 and the titles for the news came on, I realized that I wanted to work in television. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be a magician and I want to work in television. And it was that simple for me. And I said, Uncle Leo, how do I get into television? He says, well, you've got to get O levels. Which is the first lot of first lot of qualifications. And through that time, I was doing magic as a hobby. And the next few years, I was doing my schoolwork, doing magic, showing every type of family and friends you could possibly think of, even doing little mini shows at my youth club I used to go to. And I got my O levels, and I was still also going to ITN, during the holidays. I said, now what? I've got my O levels. Now what do I need to do? He said, well, now you've got to get A levels. So two more years of studying, and got the A levels. Now what? He says, well, you've got to go to Ravensbourne College of Design and Communication, School of Television and Broadcasting. And that's a long mouthful. And the BBC had a college called Evesham, which is where they put all their trainees through. And ITV, the independent side, always had this Ravensbourne where they would do short courses for people working in television. But at the time, they had a 2-year course for television and program operations. And there were 600 applicants for 30 places. So we all had to do an entrance exam, and I passed that. So I knew that, I had to stand out at the interview. It's the only way that you could do it. And I think it's a good learning curve for anyone. Make sure your hobbies are on your CV, and I've got a friend that runs Costco, and, he gets applications day in, day out, year in, year out. Everyone's got a 2-1, everyone's got a first, and he's not interested in any of that, because anyone can achieve that, if you put your mind to it. He goes straight for the hobbies and looks to see, what type of person, what you do, what you're into, and that's at interviews what he wants to talk about. So of course I've been doing magic, and I started earning money probably about 16 years old, earning money from it. So I was now coming up to 18, and I'm across the desk from the board of interviewers, and they're saying, well, you got good grades on the entrance exam. Why do you want to work in television? Explained about me working at ITN and loving the buzz of live television and everything else. And he says, oh, I see you do magic. And you've got to think about it, back in 1985, 86, there weren't that many magicians out there.
Oh.
And he said, how did you get into magic? Oh, funny you should say that. I went on a school trip to the Soviet Union, and I shared a room with the son of Timothy West and Fenella Scales, and we walked down the streets and no one would smile, and we met some Russians in Red Square, and to come back, and he took a little red sponge ball, and I did produce a little red sponge ball.
No way.
And I said to him, and he put it in the Russian, could you just hold on to it for me? And then he took the second red sponge ball and he made his vanish. And then he tapped I tapped the interviewer's hand twice, and he opened up the hand, and the 3 panelists, they burst out laughing. And so I explained exactly how I did it by performing the effect. And that made me stand out enough for me to get offered a place in television at Ravensbourne College.
Wow.
And if I fast forward like 40 years, not 30 odd years, the main guy that interviewed me was the professor, is still a professor there, although he's about to retire. And I linked in with him last year. I haven't been in touch with him for many, many years. And I spoke to him on the phone, so it was a lot easier. And he says, do you know what, Daryl? He says, to this day, I still teach interview techniques. And to this day, I still remind the students about how you must stand out, and how 30 years ago, there was a student who was a magician that came with a little red sponge ball and blah, 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 blah. And he stood out so much, we offered him the place. So,
you know what? That story is a perfect example of how magic as a hobby can help you, even if you haven't got a desire to be a professional and you want to be a hobbyist. Magic can open up so many doors for you, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, plenty of people to say, going to a bar and say, I bet your next car turnover a drink, and you win your bet. And just by smiling and talking to the bar people or restaurants, you know what it's like. You get free food, you get free drinks, you get, free desserts, just for being nice and for doing something that you really love.
That's great. That's fantastic. And So obviously you got you got into the college.
Yeah.
Had you performed professionally at that point, or was it just
Yeah.
had you
No.
started doing it shows? Because you'd been about 18 when at the end of A levels, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I started earning money when I was about 16. I was doing kid shows, and I don't profess to be a good children's magician. I did not enjoy it one bit, but I did it because I wanted to practice the magic. And at the time, you know, Suprema was around, Repro was around, Davenport's was around, and you know, there wasn't the internet, so you had to get a magic catalog, and it was hit or miss of what you were ordering, because the descriptions looked so amazing, and then you'd turn up and it would be a paper clip and a bit of string, and so you had to put a lot into presentation. The kids, I don't know, maybe I chose the wrong age at the time, but I would take it. I would take any magic job, just like most people starting up. You know, you just want to go out and perform, so you end up performing on lots of places that and situations you don't. And you know, experience taught me, you know what, kids magicians, I take my hat off to you, because it's a different breed, it's a different kettle of fish, and
It's a
and you're welcome to it. You're welcome to it.
Totally different thing. Totally different thing.
But then at 18 at college, I was very fortunate, because I got involved with Grosvenor Productions, which was owned at the time by Rocco Forte and the Forte Hotel Group, who owned at the time the Grosvenor House, and literally 3/4 of the top hotels in London, Trust House Forte owned. And this particular arm, Grosvenor Productions, they put out entertainers, you know, to literally every event at all their hotels. Everything was in-house. So, you know, I think my first professional gig I ever did was with Jerry O'Connell, and there was only 2 or 3 of us on the books at the time. I'm just trying to think who else was on, you know. And when I first started, and don't forget, at Ravensbourne, I was 18. It was the time I joined the Magic Circle. So I joined at 18. So again, that opened up the big world to me. And at the time, there was 5 or 6 of us doing close-up magic in London. Faye Presto was one of them. Peter Metad was another. As I said, Jerry O'Connell. Who else? Zap, I would imagine, was there. Although I met Zap a couple of years later, I believe. And so yeah, so I was at college earning money at weekends and evenings, going to do magic in top, you know, West End London hotels.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you were doing that while being at college as well. I mean, that's great. Pioneering close-up magic in the London area, being in the Magic Circle, and at the same time, you know, studying to do your dream job. I mean, that's a nice situation to be in, right?
It was. I mean, you know, I look back and I think everything was handed. You know, obviously, I think everything was handed to me on the plate. Yeah, because I wanted to be working TV, and I worked. You know, ended up, you know, going to Ravensbourne. You know, and I wanted to be a magician, and I was. So it was like everything I want is coming true. It just shows you, if you've got the determination and you want to do it, you go out there and do it.
Because people will look at this, and some people will go, "Oh, Daryl was lucky," but you make your own luck. You know, it's your determination, it's your ambition, it's your hard work that got you to that place. If you weren't so determined to do what you wanted to do, those opportunities might not have presented themselves to you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know all about it. I mean, you want to become the #1 podcaster, and there you go. You're doing it, and it's because you're putting the hours in. You're determined, and you're doing it. So yeah, in all walks of life, if you're determined and you want something that badly, you go out and you go and do it. And never say no. I was all too easy. You know, I used to go for auditions. At the time for presenting as well, and I did do a little bit of presenting, but I got very downhearted. You know, the fact that people would never, you know, respond or reply, and you know, I thought my name was next, and all of that, and yeah, I sort of gave up, or I didn't like being rejected, and I took that to heart. Whereas, you know, I've got actor friends out there who they don't care. They'll go from one audition to another, and it's nothing to do with you or your talent. It's possibly because you just don't look the part. They want someone older. They want someone with a beard. They want someone with glasses. It's not about you per se. And I always used to take it personally. So again, you know, never give up. You know, there's right place, right time, and that is where time does you know, play a part.
Amazing advice. Really is. Really, really good advice. So you finished Ravensbourne, is that right? You
Yeah,
finished
Ravensbourne.
Ravensbourne. Are you immediately then go? Okay, so I suppose my question is: did you immediately go into television, or did you kind of, because you're performing at some very high-profile events here? You know, you're probably making good money as a magician.
Yeah.
On top, were you thinking, well, hang on a minute, I've done this, I've got my dream job here, but I'm really good at this and I'm building up a really successful business here. Maybe I'll just go and do that full time. Like, were you at a crossroads at this point, or was it always no TV? That's where I want to be.
Because I had the best of both worlds, I thought, why can't I carry on like this?
Yeah.
I was at the end of the golden age of television. And when I say the golden age of television, that's when a lot of people were earning a lot of money. You know, after 8 hours or 10 hours, they were getting double time. And then if you worked the weekends, it became triple time. And if you hit 12 hours, it was quadruple time. And there was a lot of money to be made in television. And at the same time, I was doing the magic. But the point about television at the time, it was all shift work. So I would do a 6-day fortnight. I would work 6 days every 2 weeks, you know, and earn a full salary, a very good salary, with overtime if I wanted to on the days that I worked. So money was just, you know, piling in. And as an 18-year-old kid, although having said that, I was probably 20 when I qualified from Ravensbourne. You know, money was not a problem, and I was getting the best of both worlds. You know, I always, you know, I would obviously do my shift, and if I to lose out on a magic gigging on that day because I was working, so be it.
Yeah.
But you know, I was very loyal to whoever hired me. And just going back to Ravensbourne again on how things were given to me on a plate. I remember I you know, finished Ravensbourne and qualified on a Friday, and on the Monday morning I had an interview for a company in Wardour Street called TBI, which was a big facility company. And my interview was the head of the business. He said, "Oh, you just finished Ravensbourne on Friday?" And he went, "Yeah." He said, "You just qualified from the TV program operations course?" I went, "Yeah." He says, "Would you like the job? Can you start next week?" And that was it. That was it. I mean, he didn't even bother asking about my hobbies. It was just, "Can you start next week?" So again, another thing just handed to me on a plate. You know, thank you very much.
But again, that's because you worked hard at, you know, going to that course, spending 2 years, qualifying, and it's that course that opened doors to you.
Yeah, it had.
Remember, and let's go back to the fact that the 200 people applied, and you were one of the 30 that got in. Yeah. So it's yeah,
and it's still got a very good reputation, and it's still there. But you know, I had, you know, we were also attached to Thames Television at the time. So Ravensbourne had a huge affiliation to Thames Television, both at Euston, Hanwell, which is their outside broadcast, and at Teddington Studios. So again, you know, even while I was a student, I still had the opportunity to work and earn money at Thames Television, which was the biggest independent station in the country until they lost their franchise back in the early 90s. And I was very fortunate because at the time, John Fisher was an executive producer there. And he was producing a show called The Best of Magic. And I was very fortunate that I was given the role as an assistant floor manager. So
now all of a sudden your two passions have collided into this one thing, right?
An explosion. Yeah, it would be, you know, Mr. John Calvert, hello, would you like to come to the studio floor, please? Mr. Blackstone, hello, we're ready for you now. So for me, it was like the best busman's holiday ever. It was just the best time of my life. So I'm doing magic, I'm earning magic, I'm at Thames Television, I'm working on The Best of Magic. And it was just an incredible time. And, you know, saw some great magic. And, you know, and a couple of years later, because I think there was 2 series of Best of Magic. You know, it was Geoffrey Durham who was presenting with Anthea Turner, and Arturo Burketti. He was also one of the presenters. And saw some fabulous acts, you know, from Jerry Andrus all the way through to Uri Geller, you know, of all things. And that was the first time he had appeared on a magic show. So you think to yourself, Uri Geller, why do you want a magic show?
That's amazing. That's so cool. Oh my gosh. So where did you go from there? So you're now in television, you've worked on this, The Best of Magic. you're still working as a professional magician, pretty much pioneering close-up magic in the UK. And that's something that people that are watching this need to understand. These days, close-up magic is everywhere. Like, it's the main thing. But back in the day, that wasn't the case. Everybody wanted to be a stage manipulation or a manipulator or a stage illusionist or something like that. And close-up magic was kind of a very strange thing to want to do. And you were there right at the forefront at the very beginning in London.
Yeah, well, I think when I joined the Magic Circle, as I say, when I was 18, my first evening at the Magic Circle, I bumped into James Fortune, who took me under his wing, and he was very much a close-up magician. He took me to the Marlborough Arms, which was this amazing pub around the corner from Cheney's Mews, where the Magic Circle used to be. And he was telling me about, 2 weeks ago, we lost one of the best close-up magicians or magicians in, that England has ever had. And I go, who was that? And he said his name was Eric Mason. And he used to publish a book called The Pabula, and used to do all the drawings for it. And I didn't know anything about that, but everyone was mourning him. And what sort of magic did he do? And can you show me some? And James showed me all of this sort of close-up, even more close-up magic that I'd already learned. And I was just bewildered by it. I thought it was just amazing. But the thing which I loved about James Fortune is that, and talking about magic, was he says, how should the magic be? How should I do it? He says, it doesn't matter what you do, just be entertaining. Yeah. And he says, what I do is crap, but it's entertaining crap, laddie. And that's sort of been my philosophy. It doesn't matter what you do. Yes, it's going to be magical, but as long as you entertain and you have a rapport with your audience, whether it's 10 people around a table or even on the stage for 2,500 people, as long as you can create a rapport with them, that's half the battle.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Completely agree with you, 100%.
Yeah. So, so I got thrown into the deep end. So Grosvenor Production, there was the guy that ran it was a guy called Michael Geladi. And you're doing the Great Room at the Grosvenor House tonight by yourself. And you look at, and wait, hold on a minute, there's 200 tables there. It's impossible for me to do it. He said, do as many as you can. And believe me, there was a magician in Covent Garden who used to do the streets called Leo Ward, and he was at the same time as Keith Fields and Noel and many others. And I ended up working with him many times. And my nickname for him was Billy Whiz, because I could get around at least 30 to 40 tables in a 2-hour period.
Wow.
To this day, I don't know how I did it, but I did. I think my best is probably about 15 in 2 hours now. I've slowed right down, but yeah, his nickname was, to me, was Billy Whiz. And he's still around. I think he moved to New Zealand. But he had the most fabulous act in Covent Garden. It was, to Vivaldi Four Seasons. I think it was even before Lance Burton was at Vegas performing. He was doing Vivaldi. It was a great piece of music, and that's Happy Days. Just reminded me about that.
That's great. Now, you still, I mean, and what we're talking about here is that has been your career throughout. Like, you've worked in television. Yeah. And you've worked as a professional magician,
yeah,
throughout, and all the way through. Your reputation as a professional magician is at a level where, if you wanted to, you could snap your fingers and go full time, but you haven't. You've always maintained this career in television as well.
Yeah,
and that's where we are right now to this day. You've continued along this career path.
Yeah, I think I got the best of both worlds. It's funny because this company TVI, when I was sort of 20 years old, they were facilitating a little satellite channel at the time called the Sky Channel, as well as the Children's Channel and Discovery Channel, and I got headhunted and say, well, we're going to be moving away from TVI. We're going to build our own studios. It's going to be called Sky Television. Do you want to come? Come. And I thought long and hard about it, because instead of a 6-day fortnight, had to work a 7-day fortnight. So 7 days every 2 weeks. But it was every other week. It was every other weekend. But they upped my money so much. I thought to myself, oh, how many magic gigs do I need to do? Okay, I'll do it. So I ended up at Sky. And I was at Sky at the very beginning when, friends, huge executive producers are just my old friends from 30 years ago. And again, was having a ball. But 2 years into working at Sky, my big boss turned around to me and says, we've just merged with BSB, we've taken them over, and your role, it's going to be a bit boring. He says, why don't you go and, take redundancy, go and earn some money doing magic, because we know that, you're doing magic, and I'll make sure that I look after you. So that was the end of April. And again, timing wise, it was just perfect, because at the beginning of April, I was offered a summer season. I've actually got the thing. I was offered a summer season at the Pavilion Theatre in Brighton. And that was July 91. So I knew that I had this to go to, a 6-week run in Brighton, Pavilion Theatre. Hold on, they were going to give me a year's money tax-free. I'm 22 years old. I've already got my foot on a ladder, with my mortgage. So I've already got my first property. And I thought to myself, what have I got to, and my boss says that he will look after me. And, man, what have I got to lose? So I did that. So I left Sky. I basically didn't touch I went straight to the summer season, and I didn't touch a TV piece of equipment for about a year. And for a year, I did do magic full time. I did find it very lonely, I must admit, and maybe that's the reason why I still to this day do both. I think being a single magician doing close up or karate, it's very lonely. Don't get me wrong.
It is.
Make lots of friends. You perform to a lot. Make friends. You perform to lots of people, but at the end of the day, it's not a camaraderie. It's not you're not a crew. Which TV is. And I part of me really did miss it. And my old boss after a year phoned up and says, right, I've got a couple of mates, they're opening up a facility company in central London. Do you want to go and work with them a couple of days a week? I went, yes, please. So that was the start of my freelance career. And that's like 31 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're still freelance now?
Still freelance to this day.
So what does, without getting too sidetracked off magic, I think people would find this very interesting. What does the role of a freelance person involve these days? Like, do you work with everybody? Do you work with all the different TV companies? When would you get bought in? What sort of project would you be bought in on?
There's probably no show that I haven't worked on in the United Kingdom. I've worked on everything from I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, through to the BAFTAs, through to the Brit Awards, through to jobs all over the world. I mean, this week I'm off to Saudi Arabia for an endurance horse racing. So it's a one-day event, but I'll be going out there for 5 or 6 days, and it's nice to know that they're using British crews, because we are at the top of our game. We're very dedicated, we're very professional. It's the same with the Premier League. I do a lot of Premier League football, and whenever there's World Cups and Euros, it's always British crews that are going to do it, because we're pretty damn good at it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So a couple of questions on that, which I get on this channel all the time. Number one, as you've worked on pretty much every program in the UK, for any magicians that are watching this, that are looking for their big break in television, is there any magic formula that they can go through now that Anthony isn't around anymore, unfortunately, rest in peace? Like, that was obviously the advice that everybody had, back in the day, Ali Cook and everybody, Pete Furman and so on and so forth. But these days, if there's somebody watching this that would love to be the next Darren Brown, is there some way of getting onto the radar of the relevant people in television?
Unfortunately, I think television has now changed. So it's unrecognizable. At the time when there was Thames Television and LWT and even the BBC, there were staff that were being employed by these companies. And these staff, that was their jobs to go out and create formats and make shows and find the talent. But that just doesn't happen anymore. What you'll find now is there's commissioning editors. So Channel 4 or BBC, they'll have a commissioning editor for children or a commissioning editor for factual or semi-factual. And it'll be one staff member. Okay, and it's up to now these independent production companies to go to that controller to say, right, we have this idea. And this idea is, you know, it's a magician going around the world showing magic tricks. And then the commissioner says, oh, that's a really good idea. And how much is that going to cost? And they say it's going to cost, you know, £200,000 an episode. And the commissioning editor go, well, no, the budget's 20,000 an episode. And that's what you're up against now. It's about quantity more so than quality. You know, the BBC possibly, again, still works in the same way. Very, very few staff now, just lots of commissioning editors, lots of middle management. But it's all about the idea. So if you've got a format idea, it's up to you now really to either go to a production company and get them to help you, you know, to package it. But you'll find a lot of production companies now will say, no, we don't take, we're not interested in any outside sources because we don't want to be accused of stealing anything. So I know, for example, Menton, you do lots of quizzes, and even Anthony, and even Objective Productions, Anthony's old company that he used to work for, they would not facilitate any ideas from any outside help. Everything would be in house, so that they could then go to the commissioning editors. It's our show. There's no comeback to us. So going back to your original question, how do you get into TV? A lot of luck, and don't give up. And even though they say no, it doesn't mean the next person's going to say no. And I look back, 30 odd years ago, and I'd give up after the first hurdle, thinking, oh, well. But at the time, there was big organizations, and you only had one crack at it, because there was that only one person that could help. And if he said no, there wasn't really many places to go. Whereas now, I suppose you can go to lots of independent companies, go with the idea, and it's up to them to knock on the doors and help you.
What about BGT? Because obviously it's always had a reputation, up until Russ Stevens getting involved, it had a reputation of destroying magicians' careers, not helping them. And, they were always portrayed badly. And then when Russ Stevens came in, he really kind of changed that. And, I know that he's responsible for an awful lot of the good stuff that we see on Britain's Got Talent these days. And is it a good opportunity for people that want to get on TV to go on Britain's Got Talent? Is there a magic formula that they can go on and be successful with, or is it a case of, like, do you have any advice? I know there's people watching this that are desperate to be on TV, and I know a lot of people are, especially with how magic has been so successful in recent years, they're thinking, right, this is my year. Next year is my year. I'm going to go on BGT. As somebody who has kind of knowledge of the TV industry, is there any advice on that?
Well, unfortunately, people want instant fame. And well, the instant fame doesn't happen overnight. Instant fame is a lot of hard work. There's been magicians on BGT that, that haven't been particularly good magicians, but have come up with an effect and have gone on and have wowed the judges. But where do they go from that? Because you put them in the real world outside, and there's nowhere for them to go, because they're a one-trick wonder or a three-trick wonder if you manage to get through to the finals. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they can carry on with their craft. Maybe in the medium of television, yes, but every year BGT comes out, it's like, do you remember the guy from last year? No, we're more interested in the person this year. So there is no such as instant fame. I think it's still a good vehicle. It can be a good vehicle for you. You can certainly probably increase your fee. But if you're doubling your fee from nothing in the first place, then it's not a lot of doubling up. I just think you should be going out there, working, hard work, realize how much you are worth, okay, rather than just getting the gig for any price, and build your business that way, because longevity is that, not just to be on Britain's Got Talent and trying to live off the fact that you were on it in 2015, because the world doesn't work like that, you know. And you need to be able to build up your contacts. You need your repeat customers, and that is only done by working out there for, you know, decent clients with decent gigs.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good advice. Really, really good advice. Back to you. Obviously, we've talked about your career, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But running parallel to working in television, running parallel to being a professional performer, you've also a creator of magic as well. And I alluded to that at the beginning of the interview. You have created and released several products over the years, and lectured. You lecture, yes, all over. So my question is, what made you I mean, you're busy, very, very busy, you know, but I can only imagine how hard it is working in television. I know how hard it is being a magician and going out and performing professionally. And on top of that, it's like, well, you know what, I'm going to do on top of family and all of this, I'm going to start creating magic and publishing magic as well. Where did that desire come from?
It wasn't really, I don't think it was a desire. I didn't ever intend to make money out of it. In fact, the first thing I ever came up with was the Rose Control, which was published in Opus in February 1989. And it was a card move. And it's still, a lot of people don't know about it because it's buried, as you say, February 1989, Opus. Try and look it up if you can. I have, funnily enough, started lecturing it. So I did a couple of years ago. I lectured around the States, and I just did one this year as well. I was fortunate enough to just got back from the States, and there's a great guy came up to me and says, "I've been practicing your move. Would you mind if I showed it to you? Would you mind?" And this is the first time it's ever happened, because it's been so underground, and I haven't, you know, my friends know it and I've seen it, but I haven't been out there saying, "Hey, you got to see this, you got to see this." And he did it on me. He was that good? I said, "You do it better than me now. That's brilliant." So absolutely. And that was just me fiddling with a pack of cards, you know. It was just me fiddling and thinking, hold on a minute, if I just do this and do that. And it relates, funnily enough, it relates back to Eric Mason, because Eric Mason had used to do this particular effect that used this particular sleight, and based on this sleight, I created another sleight to call it the Rose Control. And yeah, it's been really fun just showing people, and people saying, "Really like that, that's really cool." And at the time, you know, there was Gordon Bruce and Kevin Ray, God rest his soul, who were huge card men, you know. And I'd go to them and say, because they used to come really to the Magic Circle, and say, "Have you ever seen that?" You know, I'd do it, I fooled them, and then have you ever seen it? I went, "No, never seen it before." So thank you very much. Hi JJ, hi Chris Power, look at this, would you like to publish it for me? Or I think they came to me and said, "We publish it?" And yeah, please. And then and that was it. But that was 89. And then yeah, you know, I didn't even think about creating magic up until about 10 years ago, and I saw a particular thing that was out there on the market, and I created a routine. I think that was Inflated Odds. And then at the time, The Apprentice was a huge TV show, as it is still today. And I remember seeing Mark Paul at the Magic Circle lecture, and one of his effects that he did was based on a David Berkowitz effect, but it used the entire audience. And I thought to myself, yeah, how could I use an entire audience? And I love The Apprentice. And I came up with an effect called The Apprentice, and it does. And the beauty of it, it uses an entire audience. The entire audience will stand up. So you're involving everyone. So you know, you can't get much better than a magic trick that involves the entire audience. You know, it's the same now, even with the online, with the Zoom, you know, where everyone will touch the screen, you know, do the Max Maven, you know, think as long as it involves everyone and you feel part of it, you know, it's a win-win. You know, and it was a comedy routine, and you know, it's, you know, the Americans, you dress up the, you know, the person that come out, the MD, you know, in a Donald Trump wig, and put like an instant clothing on him to suit and everything else, or you could do it with Sally and Sugar, and it's a great fun routine. and very magical, and again, it involved a deck of cards, and I came up with a new way of it's a card at any number, but with you could say any number including 1 and 52, and you hit the jack, and the person that comes up is the one counting the cards, not me.
That's awesome.
And it uses a method that's very underutilized. And it's simple, I like simple magic and simplicity. And then about a year later, I came up with an idea called cash or credit, and it started as a gag. I would go into my local newsagent with a credit card, and I'd say, do you take plastic? Do you take plastic? And then yeah, and I'd make the credit card vanish. It would turn into plastic coins. I went, here you go then. Very funny, very funny. But, and I just did it as a gag. But from that, I realized that you instead of plastic, you can actually produce real coins. Instead of plastic, you could produce a banknote instead of a credit card, or you can do the other way. So, you still take cash, and they go, oh, it's card only, and that's perfect. And then you produce the card instead. Nice. Cash or credit was born. But then I realized at the time where that kids under 18 wouldn't necessarily have a credit card, so I supplied the credit card, and this particular credit card has 15 different outs for magic tricks and predictions on it. So it was never mass marketed. I kept it sort of in house and just kept it to myself. But again, I started lecturing it, and people absolutely loved it. There's 15 different outs just on this card.
Wow.
And then I didn't do much. And then I did. I've always thought of things, and of course life does get busy, and you see so the Murphy's magic. You're top of the list one week, and then the following week you're at the bottom because something else new is coming out. There's been so much magic on the market. It's just
comes out all the time. It's impossible to keep track.
Yeah, you can't keep track of it. And I love my staples that I do, until of course COVID came, and then lockdown came, and then I realized that how can I get someone to pick a card, over Zoom, and people think that I'm cheating. So I created an app called Ideal, and I asked Mike Phillips of I Unlock Your Mind Yolks to build it for me. And it was a way of people online, picking a card, either by picking a number, and I created some great routines just using a magic app, and it's a very powerful app, and good fun to do. And you can talk about, I'm in the real world, you're in the virtual world, or you're in the real world, I'm in your virtual world, and I'd ask you to pick a card, but I might as well have this card generator. I've probably got it here actually. I can show you very quickly. There we go. Just yes. So it's a little card generator, and it pulls out random cards whenever, and it shuffles. But under your control at any time, you can determine the outcome of the particular cards that they want, or a card at a particular number.
That's great. That's awesome. And the thing is, even though the world is getting back to some sort of normality now, and live shows are happening again, and magicians being booked to go to live events, two things on that. One, that can be used in the real world. And also, I'm finding that one of the advantages of the Zoom revolution is that a lot of the time, especially with wedding clients, when they inquire, I seal the deal by jumping on Zoom for 10 minutes with them and just saying, hey, shall I set up a Zoom call and I'll show you a trick? And they're so accustomed to it. It's like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And it's so much easier to sell somebody on having you as a magician if you do something over Zoom that impresses them than it is being on the phone or sending an email.
That's the first thing I do. I phone them up and say, oh, or are you at the computer at the moment? Right, here's a link. Let me just say hello, and I can just show you something right now. And they go, oh, great, absolutely. And the best thing about this is that I do this in person now, and I say to them, we've just been in lockdown for the last 2 years. People have said, how do I have people picked a card? Well, I'll tell you what, you take this, just stop at any card when you want. Okay, turn off the phone, and and then concentrate on the card. You're thinking of a card, and it's a picture card, and it's a black card, and blah 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 blah. So I even talk about in the past, how magicians in the past, and for many years you'll be able to say, do you remember COVID? Remember when we were stuck? This is how people used to pick a card.
I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, you just got to adapt.
So do you have somewhere people can buy your magic products? Because a lot of the products that you've brought out, they haven't really come through Murphy's, have they? I mean, we talked about Murphy's earlier. A lot of them have really been self-published.
I've got, so it happens, inflated odds.
I love that trick. I reviewed that on the Wizard product review. I love that. You say you're not a kids entertainer. That works as well for kids as it does do for adults.
I know. Well, there's a different kids routine in here as well as the adult. But yeah, this is fun. And this I did at my very first time at 4Fs, believe it or not, affected. Great fun. I remember using Sean Farquhar, because again, I dressed him up. I said, your TSA, they stopped me bringing my Magnum in. So I had to improvise and produce a box of Magnum ice cream instead. Balloons, and it's very, very funny. So that's inflatedodds.co.uk. So that's easy. The apprentice trick.co.uk. So that's the apprentice trick. Cashyourcredit.co.uk. So that it's all very easy. And then idealmagic.app. So easy to get awesome. To. Yeah, you're quite right. I mean, I probably did turn off the SEO for them, which is it's probably not a good thing to do. Only because I didn't want muggles to come and find it. I'm quite protective of it. Whereas I know most other tricks, you just search it in and you'll find it, because Google will find you. But I prefer it to be slightly hidden. And
are you working on anything new at the moment? Is there something else coming out in the pipeline at some point?
No. I mean, I don't know whether to publish it or not. I lectured it twice in Florida last year, but I've got this new book test. Well, I say new, it's a few years old now. Which again uses some new principles. There's a video on my website, if you go to darrylrose.com and then search for videos of me performing a book launch in New York about 3 years ago. And it's very different. It's quite different with a kicker ending, and it's really good. And I'm quite pleased with the methods that I use. I've come up with something different and something slightly new in the world of book tests, and it can be adapted to any book. That's the beauty.
That's great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's good fun.
So that might be coming out at some point in the.
It might be, yeah, absolutely.
Maybe.
I tend not to lecture in the UK. It's quite strange.
No, you don't.
I just book the lectures, for the Magic Circles.
Well, actually, that is what I was going to come on to next. What I was going to come on to next is, outside of all of this, and how you have time to do all of this, Daryl. I have no idea. Like, people say I'm busy, but I mean, good grief, man. Yeah. It's insane. But on top of everything we've spoken about, and your many, many different feathers to your bow, you're also very high up in the Magic Circle. Now, you joined there when you were 18 years old, and you've been involved with the circle in one way or another for the entire time. And now your role is to book the lecturers for the Magic Circle. Is that right?
Yeah. So literally, when I joined at 18, it was the all-male club. Ali Bongo would come over. Oh, you're fresh meat. Oh, you're new. This, that, and the other. Maybe you should consider coming on the committee. And committee. I said, I said, what can I bring to the table? I said, apart from getting rid of the old gentleman's club and opening up to the ladies. And he convinced me to stand, and I stood, and I became the youngest member ever to be elected to council. Wow. And for 7 years, I was on the council at that particular stage in time. And it was my proposal at the AGM in I'm going to get slapped at the wrist, 94, 95, that got accepted, and we got the women in.
Lovely.
Good, and I got lots of enemies because of it.
Change is good.
Change is good, but at the time, and most of them, to be fair, are deceased now. I made a lot of enemies at the Magic Circle, but I believed in we should be a totally equality and everything else. And of course it was great. And Faye Presser came straight back in, and some lady members. I remember there was a batch of about 10 or 15 all came in at the same time, and we've never looked back since. It's a great society, and during that time, I was young, I was naive. I got a lot of the council members at the time tried to manipulate me, and it was my idea to sponsor the Young Magicians Club at the time, which had first started. Well, Young Magicians Club was one I was a staunch supporter of at the time. It hadn't been invented yet. I was the first person to say, I think we must get our own website. And I went, website? Why do we need that? What's that for? No. We're not spending £80, on a domain. No. And as I said, I got trodden on. I got trodden on a lot, and history got rewritten, for a lot of things that happened, and a lot of people took the credit for where credit wasn't due. And then I rejoined the council about 10 years ago, and I finished 2 years ago because again it was getting a bit too busy for me, and but that much older and that much wiser. It is much more difficult to pull the wool over my eyes and to have one up on me. So I was pleased that I went back and ran. Mm-hmm. And about 9, 10 years ago now, I became chair of the club night committee. So started booking all the lecturers and shows for the Magic Circle, which has been very interesting the last couple of years, because of course now the world has opened up with Zoom. Thank you very much. We've been getting lecturers that we couldn't possibly have dreamed of having 2 years ago, because obviously everything was in person. So now we're doing this hybrid version.
As the world opens back up again, will we be seeing a return to sort of more? I know that, as with everywhere in life, things have changed forever, and then we're always. I know you're always planning on broadcasting over Zoom because now there's members all over the world, and that's a great thing. But will we be getting back to live lecturers that are live at the
we are. I mean, already last week we had a live lecture in the theatre. We had a small audience. That's the key, is getting the live audience back in, because they become lazy saying, well, I don't have to watch it now, I can watch it tomorrow because it's going to be uploaded on the website. But we've just invested a lot of money at the Magic Circle. We've just put in 3 brand new PTZ pan tilt high definition cameras, as well as overheads, and on top of that 3 monitors which will now have the Zoom audience on them. So now the performer at the Magic Circle is being filmed over Zoom. He can see the live audience, he can see the Zoom audience, and now you're getting this best of both worlds now. And we can take questions from the Zoom audience, we can take questions from the live audience. But I think it is going to be a challenge, certainly getting live audiences back into the theatre. I'm pretty sure if David Stone came over, it would be full. But because they really want to see him, and it should be that should be the case with every lecture that we have in. But unfortunately, it's not the case. It's people have now become lazy, and it's now how do we get bums on the seats in the theatre? Maybe we don't publish the lecture the following day. Maybe they will have to wait a month to see it, and in which case they'll probably never get around to watching it. Or maybe we incentivize the audience coming in because we'll teach you something that you won't see on Zoom, or there'll be a giveaway that only if you're in the theatre you can have. But yeah, it's going to be difficult. I mean, I've just been to the theatre a couple of times in London, and it's not full houses yet, not full houses. And I know people are craving entertainment, people are going, but it's this You know, you go see Les Mis, you know, it's, you know, I can watch it. I can watch the film of it. They put it on over Christmas, or do I want to go and see it live? So there's, yeah, I think theatres and the Magic Circle and lots of other clubs are in for a challenging time. But
how do you think that we're going to get through that? How do you think? Do you have a strategy? Do you have a plan in place, or is it a case of hoping as the world opens up and people feel safer that it will just automatically lead to?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, numbers are well down now that we've reopened, are well down at the Magic Circle. So, you know, we would get 120, 130 every Monday night. And now, you know, we're working at 25, 40 people possibly. So as that number increases, I'm sure as we put on more and more of the live lectures, that more and more people will come and watch it live, because why not? And I think it's up to the lecturers to come and say, yeah, come and see me live and we can do this, or you'll have this, or and never underestimate, you know, the power of product as well, because lecturers like to sell, and that's why they've always loved come to lecture at the Magic Circle, because they've got 140 people to sell to straight after the lecture. And, you know, if you haven't seen what's been lectured, then why would you want to buy it? So I think it's in, you know, if you bring out decent products and new material, I think people will want to come and see and buy it afterwards.
Yeah.
So that's possibly one thing. I don't know. If you have any ideas, come and email me, please. You know.
Well, if there's somebody watching this that's a lecturer, and one of their ambitions is to lecture at the Magic Circle, what would they do to get on your radar? Do they have to have, like, so for example, you mentioned having a live lecture the other day. That was Chris Frost.
Correct.
He's not really released much, really, but he's got an incredible reputation as a kids entertainer all over the UK, and, you know, he's very highly in demand. I can see why he got a lecture there. What do people need to do in order to get a lecture? Is it good enough to just have a great reputation as a performer in your particular field, or do you need to be the next Greg Wilson, the next Jay Sankey, and have a huge back catalogue of material that's coming out on a regular basis?
You've got to stand on that stage knowing that you're performing not only to your audience and to the Zoom audience, and 90 minutes of good, strong, quality material that I know is not going to appeal to every single person 100% of the time, but that will appeal to people and will teach something. You know, dealer dems are no good. I think people are bored of dealer dems. People want to see entertaining routines to be lectured upon.
Yeah.
So I think that's the key, and have a list of decks that you're going to perform. You know, email me, write to me, and you know, and let's face it, I don't think the Magic Circle is going to be your first lecture. You know, you need to.
You know, the Magic. Just so you know, Daryl, the Magic Circle was my first lecture ever. I was scared to death. Like, I've never been so nervous in my life. It was because they got let down at the last minute, like 15 years ago, and somebody suggested me, and I just brought out my first DVD, and I was like, yes, and then instantly regretted it when I was backstage and walked out, and there was Bobby Bernard, and I was like, what the hell am I doing here?
But you did have your first DVD, so you did have a repertoire of effects,
yeah,
as opposed to like thinking, oh, what can I do, you know, and try and credit where you can credit. You know, I know it's becoming, we're all standing on the shoulder of giants. We really, really are. But, you know, try and, you know, go into the history of your effect or your sleight and try and lecture that, because I think it's very, very important.
Yeah.
But, you know, just be entertaining. And, you know, if you think you can go out there and give us a lecture, then why not get in touch? Not a problem.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And now
in the meantime, as I say, all these international lecturers now, you know, that we would only really book if they were in the country. And then, you know, we can tap into that at any time, you know, and it's great.
That's amazing. That's great. And I don't think Zoom lectures are going to go away. I think there's always going to be a place there for them now moving forward forever.
Yeah, and it gives the club night committee a night off. Although, again, going back to the Magic Circle, we will still stream. So if it is an international doing a Zoom lecture, we will stream it to the theatre. So those in the building, if they want to go and watch it on the screen, they can watch it there and then. You know, and again, you know, products that they're selling. Greg Wilson did one a few weeks ago, and you go to his website and you've got some amazing deals, you know, from you know, just from his lectures. You know, you've got a secret password to get in, and some amazing deals. So there's a lot of money to still be a lot of money to be made from the lecturing side of things.
Absolutely, 100%. Back to you. I've got a couple more questions before we round this off, and this has been absolutely brilliant. Let me ask you one more question about yourself as a performer. Going back to your career as a performer, you've continued to perform at a very high level. Would we say primarily close up, but obviously you also perform on stage as well? Would you say?
Yeah, you know, it's changed over the last few years. I love close up. I really do, and it doesn't matter whether it's on a plane, train, or an automobile. I'm very, very comfortable. One can do it with my eyes closed, you know, close up. Well, I've been doing a lot more cabaret and stand up, purely for the fact that as you get older, you realise it's a lot easier. I mean, it's harder, but it's easier. You know, I have to do it once, and that's it. And then I get 40 minutes, and then I'm out the door. You know,
and that's what, yeah, I've said that on this channel. I've said the problem with close-up magic is you can have the best audience in the world, David Blaine style reactions, and the problem is within 5 minutes you're going to have to go off and find another group of people and win them all over again. But with a stage show, you stand on stage and you take them through a journey over 30-45 minutes, and once you've won them over, you've got them.
As I said, I'm knackered after a close-up gig. You know, as I said, I used to go 30-40 tables at the Grosvenor House or wherever, and now I'm down to 15. So as you get older, you slow down, and you know, I don't like letting anyone down. So you know, if there are 20 tables at a particular gig, you know, I owe it to them for me to get round to every table. Yeah. So I either stay longer or I cut down a particular effect, so I'm slightly shorter at the table. But boy, am I knackered after 20 tables. I am absolutely knackered. Whereas a cabaret, I can just do it, and it's nice. I suppose it's nice to also hearing applause all at the same time, as opposed to, you know, getting the individual applauses around. And yeah, so I much prefer doing a cabaret now and stand up.
And does your approach to stand-up change in terms of close-up? Because, you know, it is a world of difference. And I do get the question on the channel an awful lot. Oh, how do I get into stand-up magic? What type of magic do you do in stand-up magic? Do I need to spend a fortune on props? So have you got, you know, in terms of material selection, in terms of how you approach a cabaret show, how does that differ from a close-up gig?
It was really weird because when the time where we used to have agents, real agents, before the internet and everything else, they'd say, you know, what is your cabaret? What do you do? And I always used to say, it's my close-up magic made bigger. And that's really what I do. And when Zoom Magic took over during the pandemic, and I used to, you know, I'm doing magic over Zoom, I would say 95% of the material that I did over Zoom and do over Zoom is exactly the same as my cabaret. So, you know, apart from the Ideal app, most of what I do is exactly the same. Now, whether that's just because I'm lucky that the choice of material that I use for my cabaret is you can do anywhere, anytime, any place, anywhere, whether it be close up or whether it be on stage. You know, I always remember seeing, you know, Paul Daniels, you know, at the Prince of Wales Theatre back in the 80s, you know, doing a little chop cut with a little pea and a little ball, you know, with a 2,000 seat theatre, you know, with a cup this big, you know. So as long as you focus it in on you, and as long as you're entertaining, it doesn't matter what you do. So you don't need to be a box jumper. You don't need huge, massive things, you know. Just this is the framing. This is the framing of TV, and on stage, the same thing. This is the framing. So as long as you leave it here, it's fine. You know, you don't need a huge production. And again, cabaret wise, you know, can you do, you know, you do a 40-minute cabaret, you know, in a you know, private room at a restaurant afterwards. You walk in there, you've got this much space, and you've got to plonk your table down, one little table, and perform out of it. So you have to be close up made bigger. you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I take that where there are bigger venues and there's bigger stages, I still do the same sort of stuff. Occasionally I may throw in the odd thing that's slightly bigger, like a bowling ball projection, which that was very popular a good few years ago. But which, funny enough, I got from consulting on a BBC show called The Dare with Claudia Winkleman. And it was just going back, because again, this is where TV and magic collided. And I think I got the job because I worked in TV, and I got the job because I was the magician, where it did turn into a series, but it slightly changed. But this was the pilot. So they asked me to pick a real magician that could come and help. And I picked Ben Hart to be the magician. And then there was a huge interview process of these kids to play the part of the magician. So I picked a guy called David Stevenson, who, again, on his CV, it was a really funny CV at the time. So I thought, oh, he stands out. Let's get him in. And he went on to go on The Apprentice. So he was in a few years ago, and he's now an entrepreneur, with ice cream parlors all in Spain and everything else. So, but the idea of the show was that he had to, I had to train David up to become a magician, and he went head to head in the studio with Ben Hart, and the audience had to vote who was the real magician.
That's cool.
Because no one knew Ben at the time. And David, I got the bowling ball prediction from Kevin James. It was good many years ago now. But the subtleties in it, because there was a table by the side of David, and the pad was flat on the table. So the table was built in, black top, but it was totally flat, and he just lifted it up and did it. And to be fair, he did very, very well, and he fooled about 40% of the audience. But Ben Hart was too smooth at the time, and he did a goldfish bowl production, and he was just that little bit more polished, and the audience sussed him and got it right. But that was great. That was great consulting. That was great to be able to do that and to be involved in that. That was great fun.
That's awesome. Well, let me ask you one last question.
Sure.
What's next? Because we've already talked about this. You've had a very blessed career. You've everything you've wanted to achieve, you've achieved. You've had your dream career in TV. You've never been short of work as a magician. You've created magic. You've lectured all over the world, magic that's become very successful, that a lot of magicians do. You've always had a big role at the Magic Circle. I mean, you've done so much. Is there anything left on your magical bucket list that you want to? And you even just mentioned earlier on, 4F, which is something that some people would desperately want to do, and you're just like throwing that out there. You've done so much that a lot of people would have on their bucket list. Is there anything left, or are you just kind of like, you know what, I'm done here. I've achieved everything.
I don't know. I think as you get older, you lose the hunger for certain things that I had, 30 odd years ago. And you know what, the younger generation, you're welcome to it, and I'll help you if you need help. I'll help you, But I've got a family that's growing, and even TV wise, you're looking to slow down slightly. Television used to be, and it's still good fun. Don't get me wrong, but broadcasters want longer hours. For no more extra money and blah, 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 and pushing you harder and harder and harder. And as you get older, you think, oh, why am I doing this? So, I've always got different avenues to go down. I'm involved in a new bit of camera equipment, which is just mind-blowing, which uses, 8K, an 8K sensor that you wouldn't believe the quality of it. But at the same time, if you were to put a big wide-angle lens on it, I can create virtual cameras from that big wide angle, So that could be camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, camera 4. And all these individual virtual cameras all have the ability to pan and tilt by themselves within their own frame. Wow. So instead of a camera, instead of, a production where you would need 8 cameras, you now need 1 camera. So
wow.
yeah, it's amazing technology. And not only that is that because it records in RAW, when you play it back, you still have the ability to manipulate the pictures yet again. So if you don't get it right live, you can go back in and edit it and choose any shot that you want at any point in time. And that's pretty cool. So, you know, if that takes off, then I can, you know, spend less time on airplanes and in TV studios and reap the rewards from from technology. But I'll always do magic. It's been my passion. It's you know, it's been with me through, you know, deaths and marriages and divorces and children and everything else. And it's been my one constant in life, just like the magic circle's been. So, you know, I owe magic a hell of a lot. It's been a real roller coaster of a wonderful time. You know, it's less downs, more ups than downs, but the odd bump in the road. But it's you know, it's the most unbelievably wonderful hobby to have, you know, that I've earned money from. Thank you very much.
What else can you want? What else can you want? Honestly, this has been such an inspirational interview. It really has, Daryl. You know, I've been a big fan of yours for a very, very long time. I think I was the first reviewer to rave about inflated odds. That's right, isn't it? Inflated odds. And, you know, I still think it's amazing even today. This would be awesome. Awesome. Where can people connect with you? You've talked about, so where can people connect with you? Do you have a website, or do you have socials? Or if people want to speak to you about a product that they want to buy, obviously I'm going to flash up I'm going to put in the description all the different websites to different products, because there's quite a few of them. But outside of there, if people want to contact you about the Magic Circle or you know, just anything at all, where's the best place to connect?
Very simple. Website is darrylrose.com, DARRYLROSE.com. Email Daryl@darrylrose.com. And even on the website, there are links to my shop, I think, where you can sort of, they're hidden, but you can find them and lead to all the, you know, the Apprentice and Inflated Odds and the Ideal Magic app. Look up the Magic app. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yes, it's getting a review very soon on Magic TV, so look out for that. There you go.
Oh,
Brilliant. Brilliant stuff. So yeah, I want everyone to connect with you and thank you for coming. I know you're busy. You are a very busy guy. Thank you so much for coming on the channel and doing the interview. You know, we spoke off camera. You like you said, you're flying off to Saudi Arabia in a few days, and you know, you're all over the place. So thank you for finding the time to do this, Daryl. I really appreciate
absolute pleasure. And I want you, Mr. Craig, to come and lecture at the Magic Circle. Will you promise me and do that?
I would be delighted to. Yes, I would be. It's on my bucket list to do in 2022. So if we can make that happen, I would love to do that. 100%.
Yeah, well, you are booked. We'll sort out a date, and you're going to be there. Okay. Yeah, and I want you in the theatre, and I want you to see the virtual audience. And
I would love that. I would love to go in the theatre live. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. My first, as I said, it was my first lecture that I ever did, and you know, it was such a nerve-wracking experience. I'd love to go back and do it again, 100%. That'd be amazing.
Hopefully, it'll be less nerve-wracking this time around.
I don't think it will be. It's the Magic Circle. I still get nervous before every lecture. I know I'm going to be scared to death when I lecture at Blackpool later on next month. But I, you know, a very wise man once said to me, "Nerves are good. If you're not nervous, it means you don't care." So, and I care. So, you know, I'm fine with nerves as long as I don't let them get to, you know, you don't want them to overtake you, do you? But I mean, it's good to have nerves. But
it is. But good nerves.
Good nerves, exactly. Daryl, I want everybody here that's been watching this to leave a message down below and leave a comment. Daryl will see it. Go and buy this man's stuff. Go and buy the app. It's going to be reviewed soon on Magic TV. And just reach out to Daryl. He's an amazing guy. Are you going to be at Blackpool, Daryl?
Fingers crossed. Yes, I will be there.
Right. Well, I will buy you a drink
afternoon, leaving Monday morning, and yeah, I'll see you in the Ruskin.
Awesome. I will buy you a drink. Everyone else can buy you a drink as well. Thank you so much for the interview, and I will see you again soon, my friend.
Absolutely pleasure. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks very much. Guys, make sure that you continue watching Magic TV. I'll be back tomorrow again with another video. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks very much. Bye.